for you. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Yeah, this for my dogs from the east to the west side. You rockin' brown and orange with me, baby. Let's ride. Represent the land, let them know. Tell them, here we go, brownies. Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
Dustin, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I don't know what just happened. It just kicked me off. Once again, this happened like a couple of weeks ago. Kicked me off. I couldn't hear anything. But as long as you guys can hear me, we are good.
I can hear you. It's
right.
better than you missed our whole episode where they had a tasting at the Western Reserve Distillers. Ray thought it was hilarious, but I'm inside the actual distillery. So like the big, things, the vast where they make that. And then all of a sudden the Wi-Fi there just went out. And then it'd be back.
No.
And I'm like, so Ray did a great job. He just kept on talking, like when we've had freeze outs before. And he's like, oh no, I just pegged right along.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do. So nonetheless, we are having some technical issues tonight. I think my computer is on its way out, but that's okay. We're here. We're happy. We're healthy. We're excited to talk to you about the Cleveland Browns. But welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast. I'm Allie Heisong. Actually, I'm just kidding. I'm Allie Ellery, coming at you live from Pensacola, Florida. Joined with me, as always, out in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio, we have Dustin. Dustin, how you living? How you doing?
Okay. First and foremost, you probably saw what happened on Thursday Night Football.
I did, yes.
I don't want anybody to ever question my fandom ever again, if they ever do, to set out in that game in those conditions where my feet I didn't feel them until I got about 2 minutes back to my place here. It was beautiful, but also just insane what happened weather-wise in that game to finish it. But again, we know this. The Browns beat teams they're not supposed to, and they lose to teams that they shouldn't. But that was crazy to go to that game. And then I'm going to do something very crazy tomorrow morning here in Cleveland. I'm doing the turkey trot.
Oh, are you?
I'm going to do that. A whole lot of other stuff. I have a new whole health cleanse thing that I'm going on, but cool. That's for another later thing. But 30 pounds is definitely coming off by February. Gone.
That's incredible.
It's going to be, I know I've been talking about these 30 pounds my entire life, but I have a plan now and a system to do it. So it'll be good.
Well, I'm excited for you. That sounds like a good time. Talk to me about that game, being there. I mean, from what we could see on the TV, it was beautiful. It was magical. It was a lot of fun to watch. There were so many good things that came out of that game. Obviously a win being one of them, but a team that seemed bought in. A team that was ready to play for Kevin Stefanski and Jameis Winston. This looked like just true AFC North matchup. This was a lot of fun. This was it's such a cool win. Something really fun to watch on the TV on Thursday Night Football primetime. Just really cool. So talk to me about what it was like to be there. Obviously, I want to hear about the weather, what it was like to experience that. But I also want to talk about the vibe of the team, the energy surrounding it.
Well, we'll back it up a little bit. It all started with leaving work a little bit early and getting on Larry's bus, being picked up. So, that's going to be the start of a good day going to the Muni lot. On the bus is Eric Metcalf. He's taking and partaking in his first Muni lot. So Eric Metcalf is on the bus, and he's like, I want to take this in. I want to see what it's like. And I think he was like, okay, this is why the Myles Garretts, the Donovan Mitchells, all these guys come down and take in the Muni lot like we did, Allie. Like you had not been there, and it was very eye-opening for you to go in there and see and experience that. So we did that. Mm-hmm. Weather not bad, then go into the stadium, and it's just kind of those, swirly light snow, right? Like that's, and by the way, I'd take snow all day long over rain. So the game starts out pretty good, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, based on the way the game's going, the Browns are in this. They are in this football game. They're playing inspired. Myles Garrett has one of his best games of his career. All those things are transpiring. And then we get a big lead, right? We get a big lead in this game. And I'm like, the friend I was with, Jeremy, goes, this is Cleveland, though. That lead's going to end. And I'm like, you got to go set somewhere else. Because literally, as soon as he says that, everything starts to do that. Well, in the course of all this, the snow gets heavier and heavier. and heavier. And the snow just starts coming in. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. And then this was something I've never really experienced weather-wise, where then it turns into snow. I know you've experienced this because you live in Ohio. There's snow squalls, like the little like round pellets. It's like hail, but it's snow squalls. And I'm like, now we're in a snow squall. It's not even snow. It's squalls of snow all over. And I'm like, this is uncomfortable. And I'm like, they better can win this game, or for me sitting out in here, because this is miserable at this point. They just got to win. And just, sometimes to experience it was amazing, but I will tell you from a television perspective, what I did come home and then watch, Winston is a national treasure.
Yeah, he is.
The things he says before the game, during the game, this is my first snow game. I'm from Alabama. I'm excited. Let's go do Snow Angels. And then I don't know if you saw that his actual listening piece came out.
Yeah, the microphone came out. It was on that rushing touchdown came out.
Yeah, and he goes in for the 2-point conversion, and that thing is just dangling around out there.
Didn't matter.
He goes, and what I love is he comes and he goes, I told you, I still love you, like, because he had missed that catch before, and then Njoku goes to the 2-point conversion. It was a crazy, crazy game to be at, but a fun game, by the way, because it's your rival, it's the Steelers, and the stat still stands. Mike Tomlin hasn't won a AFC North game on Thursday night in his entire career. So that stat still stays there. And I don't know, this team, and we'll get into this whole, they shouldn't have won this game, their draft position. I want to talk about this on the show because I think there's something to be said with not trying to do that. And I know there's reasons to do that, but we'll get into that. So
sure. Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. Look, this is my first show back since getting married. And I took a couple of weeks off, and I'm not going to lie to you, Dustin, it was great. It was great taking a couple of weeks off. Not from the Browns, of course, because I'm going to watch them no matter what, but from being so plugged in, to be able to disconnect just a little bit was refreshing, especially during a Brown season that isn't going the way that we want it to. But I will tell you this, to come back after the wedding, you were there at our after party. We were watching the Browns lose to the Saints in New Orleans. And then to come back home to Florida and see the Browns beat the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. I'm not going to lie to you. I was dreading that game. I told David, I said, I am just not that excited to come home after our wedding and watch the Browns in primetime at the current state. Like, no, thank you. And to come home and watch what turned out to be just a magnificent, fun football game. As soon as the snow started falling, I thought to myself, oh, they got this. Like, no problem. So I want to ask you, did that experience, being there in that type of snow game, seeing everything in prime time, did that shift your perspective or your desire for a dome?
No. Actually, if anything, it projected it the other way.
I'm sure. I would have been checked out.
Well, because I was sitting there, like, everybody was like, man, it was a snow game. And they're like, but like they were interviewing people, I think Cleveland.com or somebody, you know how they do that after the game when they get people's reaction, walking out of the stadium. And people were like, still want that dome, though. Still want that dome.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Because here's the thing. Talent beats talent at the end of the day. Right. Does a snow game level the playing field with skill positions? And, everybody's got to play. And some would say it favors an offense over a defense in a snow game like that, because receiver can just bust his, arse down the field, and the defender has to, obviously defend a little different in those conditions. But here's the thing. I wasn't at this game, but Allie, you know this. We interviewed Nathan Zagura before that Saints game where it was like, 5-7 degrees. And that's a team that plays in a dome, and they came up here and they kicked their butt. So again, I don't think it was a great experience. I'll enjoy it every 4 years when we play the Buffalo Bills, whatever, I'm just like, or Green Bay or whatever that may be. But again, I don't know. I think everything is leaning. Well, it's an entertainment sport to begin with. And there are more and more females coming into the element of this. And they are really making this a game day experience for an entire family. And I think if you're going to do this, you have to include everybody that wants to come to a game, right? And enjoy because I will tell you this, I don't like going to a game in January when it's 2 degrees, 5, 10 degrees. Nobody does, right? So I think they're trying to bring more people into the fold. I think you're going to see more and more teams go to domes. I mean, that's just my gut. And I'm really not sure why the damn Buffalo Bills decided to build another outdoor stadium. I know that's crazy, but I also don't think they have the money, like a funding mechanism to raise that much money. But I think if you're bringing more people into the sport and getting more type of people into the sport, I think you got to make it more of an entertainment business. Well, I mean, I know they're in the entertainment business, but I think they need to skew that way. The days of the old stadium and
It's not fun. It's fun every once in a while, and very rarely does it happen on prime time in a divisional game where there's passion involved, and the Browns they have something to play for finally. Like normally that's not the case, but it was fun on Thursday to watch that happen. The Browns beat the Steelers, but I think I can't say we can all agree because a lot of people are saying no, like that is Cleveland Browns football. But from the fan experience, Dustin, you have season tickets. You got every game. I mean, do you want to do that every week? Not particularly,
no.
but I can see both sides. I really can.
Well, let's just go back a little ways here. I don't know if there was a story that came out from Kansas City where fans, there were dozens of fans that had frostbite from a Kansas City Chiefs playoff game. They lost their toes. Like they had to be amputated because they were staying at the game in those elements.
It's crazy.
That's not safe. And B, like, again, are you going to bring your kids to that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to make this, I mean, like, you're not going to put your kids out in that. I mean, this isn't.
Well, if anything, until the Browns do have a dome, I know some Facebook friends of mine, they had kids going to the game and, saying, hey, like this builds character. If you want to be a Browns fan, this is what it's about. This is how you get it in their DNA. So I can see both sides to it. But I mean, when we are looking at the entire season and the benefits of a dome, like I always fall to that side. One, I just don't like being cold. That's why I live in Florida. But I don't know.
As I say, I think you very much enjoyed the NFL draft. I'm kidding.
No, that was miserable. That sucked completely. That was bad in Cleveland. Not great. But we've got a lot to get into. I've missed a couple of weeks, so a lot of catching up to do. We're going to get into it. But before we do that, of course, we've got to do some sponsor reads. I haven't done that in a while, so let's see if I can remember some of these. We're going to start with our friends over at Stadium Mustard. If you don't have Stadium Mustard in your kitchen this season, you're doing it wrong. The iconic brand, the iconic taste. It's beloved from ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between. Stadium Mustard is a smooth brown mustard rich in both taste and tradition. By the way, it's loved by millions, so be sure to head on over to stadiummustard.com to shop now. Dustin, I'm going to turn it over to you for our friends over at Teresa's Pizza.
Yeah, our friends over at Teresa's Pizza, if you have not checked them out, they are in Mayfield Heights and also University Heights. Great place to grab some pizza, take the family, enjoy all those wonderful things that are Teresa's Pizza right here in Cleveland since 1969.
All right. And also want to tell you about our friends over at 5 Iron Golf. Guys, this is where golf is inclusive for everybody. I don't know if you've seen this, but Bryson DeChambeau, he has been trying to hit a ball over his house every single day in an attempt to make a hole-in-one, and he finally did it today. But this is where you can go get your practice. If you want to hit some golf balls over your house, not safe, but head on over to 5 Iron Golf. You can do it there. It's where golf is for everybody.
Well,
all right.
I was going to say two things. 40% off if you use code Brownie40. And tonight is ladies' nights every Wednesday night, 5 to 8 p.m. All women go in free. I mean, why wouldn't you want to do that? Grab your girlfriend, go in, enjoy some wonderful golf, free golf, 5 to 8, ladies' night, Wednesday night. Same night as our show, Friday, 5 to 8, right here on Euclid in Cleveland.
There you go. Also want to tell you about our friends over at Believeland Landscaping and Pressure Washing. Guys, by the way, we are heading into the winter. Be sure to contact them for your snow removal needs. They can turn your outdoor space into a beautiful, breathtaking oasis. So please be sure to go check them out. Dustin, let's go.
There's snow coming. There's snow coming this weekend. And Larry brought up a crazy thing. He said they can get up to like 36 inches if the snow hits right on that side of the lake. I'm like, that is crazy to me. Like, that's a lot.
That is nasty. It's going to be 76 here tomorrow. Really excited about that. Speaking of Larry, let's hear from our friends over at Lorello Vineyards.
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof.
Hello, welcome to Lorello Vineyards. Larry and Kim Lorello. We have a beautiful Here We Go Brownies wine that we would like to offer to you this season as we did last season. We have several other award-winning wines, lovely entertainment and events coming this summer. So come and see us, whine a bit, you'll feel better.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Muni lot this fall. Go Browns.
All right, let's go out for the medical moment, brought to you by our friends over at Lorello Vineyards, and bringing to you for the first time ever on the Here We Go Brownies podcast. It is my husband, Dr. David Ullery. David, how we living? By the way, David, I hate to bring it to you, but I also took some practice shots in the front yard to see if I could hit a golf ball over our house, and I broke 2 windows. So I already filed an insurance claim. We're good.
Do you have in the pool at least?
No,
Big target.
I bladed it. It hit the street. So sorry about that.
By the way, that was very clever with you guys with the golf balls for the wedding. Thought that was very clever.
So what we did for our seating chart, everybody, is or for the seating chart display, was when you came in, we had custom golf balls on custom tees, and it had a little flag that said what table you're sitting at. So, we had to incorporate golf some aspect of our wedding. David, how you living?
I'm living great. So happy to be back home in Florida with my wife, and just ready to settle in for the holidays now. Not only did we display seating with golf balls, but what Allie didn't tell you is that one of the gifts I got her for our wedding day was our first 18 holes framed. So I saved the scorecard from each of our first rounds together, our first 18 rounds together, and had a golf ball from each course as well. And I had a local frame shop frame that with the golf ball and a little plaque, like with a little quote from that course. And then it's 2 big frames, and those were on display in the cocktail hour.
Really cool.
I saw those as you went around the corner. I was like, that was really cool because it showed like all the different
Yeah, so we're obsessed.
We are. We're simply obsessed. We did golf yesterday for the first time in quite a while, actually, David. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
And there were Blue Angels flying overhead, which is pretty cool.
So get this. We live in Pensacola. Obviously, David is in America's Navy. And we were golfing on base because, that's a really cool golf course. And you can see all of the military jets overhead. And as we were pulling into the golf course, you've got the Blue Angels flying over. And I about passed out right then and there. It was so cool. They're practicing. Oh my God, it was so cool. So a couple of holes on the tee box were teeing off, and you've got just jets flying over. It was so cool. So
well,
cool.
As I say, Al, you may be aware of this, but they do the big Labor Day air show here in Cleveland, right on the lake. And from my apartment, I had a front row seat for the Blue Angels, like cutting through the buildings and over the. I mean, it was crazy to watch. I mean, these guys doing the whole we did air shows out in Idaho, but it was kind of cool just to see them cut through 60-story buildings and stuff. I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, but they're the best of the best. And I've met some of those guys back out in Idaho, and they really do. David, I hate to tell you this, but they definitely fit the whole Top Gun aviator come out. I mean, they fit the bill, and the women go crazy when they walk out in their
What do you mean you hate to tell me? They're cool. Like, they know it too.
Well, no. They are cool on a whole nother level. They're as cool. And then that is another cool where you just walk off of a fighter jet with your aviators on and your jump. I mean, come on. That's a whole nother level of cool. That's a handful of people in the world that get to have that kind of coolness. That's insane.
Yeah, really cool. But a lot of fun nonetheless. We loved incorporating golf into our wedding day. But we've got to talk about the Cleveland Browns. David, there's a lot to get to. First and foremost, we see James comment here. Any news on JOK? Let's start there. Just because since we were out, we got the news report. I think Mary Kay reported that this is going to be an uphill battle for JOK to not only return to football this season, but to return to football in general. So I think it's important to have this conversation. You are the most qualified here to talk about it. So take it away, sister.
Barely. Some people don't believe I'm a surgeon, but I promise I am. So yeah, JOK, it was on the docket for me to talk about today anyway. I pulled up an article just kind of looking for updates. And the unfortunate news is there is no update. Stefanski had a session with the media on Monday, 2 days ago, kind of going over some injuries. There was no update from him on JOK. He remains on the IR with really no change in his status. I know at one point there was optimism that he might come back, and then it kind of switched in the other direction, as Ali said, that he's got to fight to be able to play football again ever. It doesn't, at least at first glance and on the field level, it didn't appear to be sort of like injury to the level of what Ryan Shazier went through. But when you hear someone saying they may never play football again, I mean, you have to think that it had to be certainly close to that. And so best guess, kind of as we always talked about before we went on our little break, was that there's probably some damage to some ligaments in his neck that have made it probably chronically unstable. And so anytime you talk about the neck, the spine, the brain, like you don't mess around with that. And so is he going to need surgery or not? I don't know. I can't speculate on that, and saying yes or no would be purely speculation. But certainly an injury that they're saying he may never return to football with portends a pretty severe and scary outcome. And you have to think that there's just some element of instability now in his spine, that any sort of high collision trauma or injury would just potentially render him completely paralytic or paraplegic or quadriplegic. And so, yeah, George, it could be nerve damage. It could be a herniated disc, or it could be, like I said, some ligaments that were torn, leading to those bones, those vertebrae shifting back and forth without control. And so to fix that, you would require some sort of surgery to stabilize it. And Peyton Manning had a couple neck surgeries and he came back to play, but Peyton Manning played a very different position than JOK. And so it's unfortunate. It's really, really disappointing, as obviously for us, but especially for him. You can't even imagine what he's going through. And so as of now, there is no update on if or when he'll ever be able to return. So we just got to keep him in our thoughts and prayers and hope for the best in terms of his outcome from this injury.
Gosh, that's tough, but that's a really tough thing to talk about and to hear. But you're right. All we can do at this point as fans is just pray for the best outcome for JOK as the person. Obviously, we want to see him return to the field as a Browns player, but just as a human being, just healing and being able to, live a long life. That is obviously the priority here. So that's difficult. Let's talk about some of the other injuries that we have to talk about, David. Who else we got? I know it's probably a lot since we haven't done this in a while. Hopefully it's not though.
Going back on the injuries, kind of the injuries officially listed. JOK is kind of the last one we talked about before our break, and then there's a nice 2-week break where there wasn't an injury. Part of that is probably because of the bye week. But November 16th, Mike Hall was placed on the IR, and I actually didn't catch this until doing my research for this show. He has a knee injury. He was placed on the IR. It happened in practice, though, so there is no detail, no video to kind of give us a guess of what the injury itself is. But we know with linemen that knee injuries are typically like a meniscal injury, like we've seen with DeJuan last year and some other players. And so it could be meniscus, it could be a torn ligament, MCL, LCL, maybe ACL. But if it was ACL, it wouldn't be a 4-week IR stint. And so there is really no update on him from Stefanski either, just apart from the fact that he is on the IR and we don't know if he'll return or not. And it's a couple more weeks before he can be activated. I believe 2 more games. And so remains to be seen if he will come back for the season or not. On the opposite side of the line, just a couple days later, unfortunately, we lost DeJuan Jones. He fractured his ankle. And so he is out for the season. His injury is very similar to, was it Whippler? Luke Whippler fractured his ankle as well. So they both sustained similar injuries. And so unfortunately, DeJuan, who was, picking it up and playing really well, is out for the season with that injury because I'm pretty sure he required surgery for that. So on that same side of the line, then looking at Jedrick Wills, he is questionable right now. He is questionable for the game on Monday. So Stefanski did give an update on him and said that his knee has not responded well enough to be able to play. And that was on Monday. So I'm guessing that's alluding to at least practicing because after that, Cameron Justice said they'll continue to monitor him this week and will continue to work through the injury. So he hasn't quite yet been ruled out for Monday's game, but he's questionable and it's not looking hopeful. So that kind of opens up the door to ask, who is going to play left tackle on Monday? And maybe you guys are going to get into that later. But there isn't a clear-cut answer just yet. The Browns did make some moves on the other side of the line to kind of shore that up because, as we also know, Zadarius Smith was traded away. And so with that happening, as well as Mike Hall being out, and they signed James Houston, and they also claimed Cameron Thomas. So they've got a little bit of depth there after losing some pieces. But in terms of other injuries, then the only other ones to look at are Jeff Swaim at tight end. He's questionable. Miles Harden is actually designated to return to practice from his IR stint on Wednesday today. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, he'll be activated for a game and at least get some depth at cornerback. And then the final one is Cedric Tillman. He is currently still in concussion protocol. So I'm not sure what stage he's in, but we know how that goes, and it's a day-to-day, stage, step-by-step basis. And so the fact that it's a Monday game gives us a couple extra days to maybe get out of the concussion protocol and get him back and suited up for Monday night. But as of now, he's questionable to return.
Wow, that is a lot. I think most importantly, when you take a look at this offense and the offensive line, it's just depleted. And it seems, David, that this is a every single year type of situation. I mean, I can't recall a year since the Browns were really bad, the 1-15, 0-16 season where they had Joe Thomas, where the line was incredibly stable. Ever since, I mean, even 2018, 2019, you've got these key pieces that go out. And why is that? You've got DeJuan Jones and Luke Whippler that sustain a very similar injury. They both play a similar position, on the offensive line. Is that just, getting rolled up on? Like, what causes something like that?
Yeah, I think the fact that they both sustain kind of a similar injury, I do think where they're at and the position that they play and kind of the force that they go through, I think you're exactly right. Getting rolled up on, it's very common for that to be a rotational type injury. Because what happens is you have your leg pinned underneath you, whether it's your ankle or your knee, and you have all this weight. I mean, linemen are top heavy. There's no way around it. And so as their leg gets pinned and then they get pushed one way or the other from maybe the defensive lineman or a linebacker, they're going to end up rotating and twisting around that joint, whether it's the knee or the ankle. And so that's why you see a lot of high ankle sprains. You see these knee injuries where you have meniscus tears or MCL sprains. And then ankle fractures too, because the mechanism for an ankle fracture and for a high ankle sprain, they can be similar. Now, there's a couple different ways to break your ankle, but rotationally is probably the most common way to do it. And so when your ankle's planted and the rest of your body twists around it, that's a lot of energy going through that small joint. And so that's probably why we've seen at least a couple of those injuries. And I mean, overall, it's always lower extremity injuries with these guys for the most part. And one other thing, not to keep pouring on, but if you recall, back in early October 10th, James Hudson had to have shoulder surgery. So he is also out for the season, for those of you who don't recall, with him too. So, I mean, just as Ali said, the depth continues to be a problem. The health continues to be a problem. And it's crazy to think that, it's almost been a decade now where you can't remember an offensive line where it's been stable and healthy for an entire season. And I mean, maybe it's like that across the league. Obviously, we follow one team very closely and just kind of get the limited information on the others. But it definitely feels like at this point, for the last 2 seasons, especially, the Browns have been cursed with some sort of injury, and we need to find a way to break that.
Well, obviously, it plays such a huge role with who this offense is and what they plan to do going forward. Obviously, we know what that does to the run game. We know what it does to the passing game, but just their identity as a whole, it really matters. It just does. No matter how much depth you have, it seems that these guys are consistently banged up and unable to go. Go ahead, Dustin. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good, David. So, we talked about this a few weeks back with the position where the Browns are at 3-8, right? Do you feel like the team is more, I won't say quick to do this, but put them on IR versus like week to week, leaving them in that roster spot? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, he's going to be out for this game. Whereas when you're 3-8, you can let a guy get more reps. You know what I'm saying? And take care of your rookie guy, and get him healed and not risk further injury. Do you think some of that plays into it? I mean, and I know you probably don't know this answer. Is there a trend to that around the league? It'd be interesting for a future show to see, like, teams that are out of it. Do they throw more guys on IR versus, leaving them on a roster spot? I'm just curious because it seems like earlier in the season we didn't, all of a sudden now we're sticking guys on IR once the record kind of has done this. And I can't remember last year, Ali, but it'd be interesting to know if teams are more apt to do that when they're out of it, I guess.
I mean, I think it's a great question. And I mean, it would be a very interesting study to kind of look and pull some data for. Sorry, the animals are just coming in droves right now. It would be an interesting study or some data to look at, just because I think there might be something to that, Dustin. And again, we don't know for sure, but as you said, like, when teams start to have, more of a losing record where it's looking like maybe the playoffs aren't a possibility. I'm sorry.
Let me guess. That's Birdie, isn't it? That's definitely Birdie.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I know that's squeak. It's
a new toy. It's a new toy every night. She always finds these squeaky ones. She's gonna start barking soon, I bet. But so it would make sense, if you got a team where you feel like you're not going to make the playoffs, and really at this point you're just kind of playing for pride and kind of playing to see what you have on the depth chart for the future. Maybe they are more likely to send guys to the IR with like a I guess a quicker reaction to do that, to enable some younger guys to come up and get some playing time and just evaluate them. Kind of treat it like it's not a tryout, but get them in some get some reps in for these guys and see if they are able to play. And so I don't know. I don't have a good answer. There's really no data out there or anybody out there who's looking at that. So I mean, it would take a little bit of legwork, but I'd love to look at that at some point and figure out if that's a thing or not.
I just feel so bad. I lock myself in this office, which is great because I have doors. They're glass doors, so I can see out of them. So I can see Birdie and Ludo just walking by, just like looking to start some war, basically. And then poor David, he's out there in the dining room with all of them trying to fend them all off.
It's a jungle over here. I don't know if you saw the screen shaking for the last 5 minutes.
I did, yeah.
Because Jiffy is rubbing his face on the corner of the laptop because it feels.
Well, he has to. He said he needed to.
I love George's comment. That made me laugh. That was
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. He said we need to add a parrot or a toucan. I mean, honestly, he's not far off. Like that's the life we live, right? Oh, Jeff, come on, get that out of here.
No way, sir.
I mean,
Sorry,
have
buddy.
some manners.
This is a family show.
Good God. Good God. David, I will get you out of here on this one. James Houston comes to the Browns, as you saw and you mentioned. He played kind of a, dare I say, a little bit of a Swiss Army knife type of role with the Lions on the defensive line. They would move him around. Never really found a home as a pass rusher, as a true pass rusher. Moved him inside. He could stop the run. I mean, they even moved him to like an outside linebacker type of position. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about James Houston, the player, outside of the time that he pooped his pants.
Well, that just goes to show you the level of commitment that those players have for Dan Campbell, just doing anything to stay on the field. But yeah, like you said, he was just picked up by the Browns. He was drafted by the Lions in 22. He was a 6th round pick. He came ultimately from Jackson State after starting at Houston. And yeah, he really was kind of a hybrid player because, I mean, you look him up and some sites list him as an outside linebacker, some sites list him as a defensive end. So he's kind of that hybrid role where you can stand up on the outside or you can drop him back into coverage. So he's a versatile player and he's got quite a motor on him. I mean, when he was playing his best football in Detroit, I mean, he was getting after the quarterback. He's one of those guys that if you let him go, he can get there, but he's more versatile because, again, you can drop him at linebacker and drop him to coverage. But yeah, he never really just kind of settled in and found his home. He had some injury problems that I think led to that as well. I mean, I will admit it's a bit of a surprise that the Lions released him with some of the depth issues that they have on the defensive line as well. But I guess they kind of, filled that void with Za'Darius. And so they thought, well, this guy isn't here, not playing the role we need him to, so we don't need him anymore. And I don't know if it was a culture fit, if it was something else, but I think, oh my gosh, I think he's a very versatile player. And I think, Dan Campbell even said in his press conference, he's like, sometimes we just need a fresh start. And so I don't think it's that the Lions necessarily lost hope in him. I just don't think he was fitting their scheme and fitting their team. And so maybe, he'll find a little resurgence and a little like revival of his career in Cleveland and help this team out down the stretch. And that would be pretty cool for him just because he is a good player.
Well, look, I think, there's room for him. There's an opportunity for him to put some good film out there, whether it's for the Cleveland Browns in the future or for another team down the line. But you mentioned Za'Darius Smith is out. You've got Okoronkwo, but you've got Alex Wright, who is out with an injury. There is opportunity to come in as a true pass rusher, and there's also opportunity on the interior of the defensive line. As we know, the Browns need help in coverage also, so they could use the depth. I think it's an interesting signing. I think it was just very interesting to see that the Lions ended up letting him go. I was not expecting that one because he has been a productive player.
Yeah, and not only the defensive line injuries, but the Lions also don't have Alex Anzalone, their captain, anymore because of a forearm fracture. And so, to see that, your favorite, actually.
His hair bothers me. It kills me. I hate looking at it. Like, put it up or something.
I mean, maybe part of it is, and again, he doesn't play a middle linebacker role, but he's versatile, and so maybe they see some value in him with JOK not being able to come back and having depth at 2 levels with one player. So be interesting to see how they employ him, how Jim Schwartz decides to use him. And hopefully he can find some success with the Browns.
Look, I look like Alex Anzalone out there. Put your hair up. Put your hair up. It's gross.
Your hair is a very similar color. Yours is much nicer though.
Okay, take that up with my mom, David. I'm calling her right now. You better text Peggy in that group chat right now. All right. Anyways, David, thank you for joining. Most importantly, thank you for talking to us about JOK. I know a lot of fans were really hoping to hear some optimistic news, but at this point, I guess, no news hopefully is good news. Just hopefully he's healing. I don't know what to hope for, but obviously just a full recovery with JOK.
Yep, absolutely.
David, have a great Thanksgiving. Have an awesome Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you. You too, Dustin.
All right.
We got turkey. We got ham.
You too, Birdie. Awesome. You too, Birdie.
Yeah, you too, Birdie. She's just a menace lately. All right, David, we appreciate it. Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Go Browns.
All right, that is Dr. David Ullery. That was the medical moment brought to you by friends over at Lorello Vineyards. A couple other ad reads here before we turn it over to the next topic. So much to tell our listeners about Lady Caroline.
Guys, Lady Caroline, check them out. They have a New Year's Eve cruise, which is super cool. That'll be happening New Year's Eve. Also, they have a lot of other different types of cruises you can book. That includes charters for your business, or if you want to take a whole group of people out other than your business, friends, families, weddings, all types of things, check them out. That's Lady Caroline, right down here, takes out of the Cuyahoga River right down by the flats. And by the way, if you want to check out the Greater Cleveland Aquarium, that's right, that's the shark tank right there. Super cool to walk through. They have Santa Claus in the shark tank. That's right. You can actually go with your kids, and they actually have the scuba divers in the actual shark tanks in their scuba gear going around in the tanks. So literally going in there for Christmas. I thought that was super cool. But yeah, guys, we'll be announcing, I'll be telling some folks for score predictions. There's some people that want some tickets. We have some more tickets going out, some cool prizes, an entire yearly pass we're going to give away to the actual aquarium, a whole year. So you can go all year next year. We're going to do that as part of a Christmas package. Secondly, we're going to give away a $100 gift card to Lady Caroline to use whenever you want. That'll be a whole package that will be given away for Christmas. So look for that on Black Friday, that contest to launch.
There you go. Also, I want to tell you about our friends over at Hartville Marketplace and Flea Market. Guys, you can head down there year-round. They have over 3 acres of indoor shopping. It is fully heated and fully air-conditioned, so you can go any time of the year or head outside if you're willing to brave the cold. They have over 12 acres of outdoor vendor space, over 1,000 vendors. They are open Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays year-round. So please be sure to go check out our friends over at Hartville Marketplace and Flea Market. All right, let's get to, I think, the core of Browns news lately. And that is the report that came out that the Browns are anticipating and looking to retain Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, and also Deshaun Watson. This has been the conversation over the past few days since it came out. I think we've got to spend some time on it. I will start with this. I'm not surprised that this is what they said. At what point, during any season, do you expect any team to come out and say, hey, we're not going to fire our head coach yet. We'll probably do that in a couple of weeks. They're not going to come out and say, hey, we are at week 12 in the 2024 football season. We're going to blow it up after the end of this year. They're not going to do that. So I think this is not surprising for now. However, when week 1 of next year rolls around, do I expect to see Deshaun Watson under center? No, I do not. I think that they are just saying what they have to say right here, right now, to, I don't want to say retain jobs, because I think jobs are on the line. When you have a season where you only win, as of right now, 3 games, when the season was expected to be a Super Bowl contending type of season, and you only win 3 games, somebody's got to lose their job, whether it's the quarterback, the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the general manager. Somebody has to be held accountable, because it's simply unacceptable. I think that at week 1 of next season, if we see Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski here, that may be the case, but we will not see Deshaun Watson under center. I think one of those 3 will not be in that rotation. Now, I want to open it up for discussion. I think it's an interesting conversation to have, but I think right here, right now, today, of course they're going to say that. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah. So I've been all over the place with this over the last couple of weeks, mentally, kind of where my head is, what I think is best for the organization. I will tell you this. I believe, and I think it was Rich Eisen that brought this up. No team with a winning record has beat two teams with playoff potential since 1970 or the existence of the National Football League.
Okay.
So Stefanski goes out and beats the Ravens, and he goes, or no, it was also somebody had never beaten a team that had won 5 games in a row like that with a subpar 500 record. He did that against the Ravens. They came in here with a 5-game win streak, and also the Steelers came in here with a 5-game win streak. Kevin Stefanski is not going anywhere. I don't think Kevin Stefanski is the problem. Clearly, Joe Thomas on a previous show said, I can at least tell you this, the culture seems to be intact, right? And I'm going to take his word. Like he can smell BS probably 10 miles away if it's, smoke screens coming out from Berea. I don't even know if Andrew Berry's the problem other than they all agreed to draft Deshaun Watson and move in that direction, right? But I think that was the ownership. And we know, full disclosure in the show, we don't know if that was Jimmy Haslam wanting to go after another quarterback aggressively and then trying to get Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski to buy into this idea. We don't know that, and that has not been made public. Or if it was a group effort, let's all three go out and find a quarterback that we think can lead us to the promised land. So that we don't know, right? That's the one thing, the overlying thing that we don't see here. Here's the one thing. I don't know if Deshaun Watson will be healthy and ready enough week 1, let alone be able to start for the franchise, right? So it might be a blessing in disguise for the front office. If it's not something they have to worry about till week 4, 6, or whenever that may be into the season. And I want to pump the brakes on this a little bit because there's also some things out there from Albert Breer and some other folks that have said the Browns are planning on creating a quarterback competition in the off season for that. And I don't know if I even buy that because you would have kept Joe Flacco if that was the case. And we know Winston gets along with Deshaun Watson for the most part. It seems like there's a good camaraderie there. I don't think you can have a quarterback competition in Cleveland. I just don't think that's going to be able to exist. I think you're going to be able to have a guy come in and start and say like, okay, that's our guy. He's going to start. And then you have to, at some point in the season, decide if you're going to shift gears because of Deshaun Watson's healthy enough or something like that. I don't think you can have a quarterback competition because they clearly have stated in the past, everything they've spoken from the hymnals is like, yeah, we can't have Joe Flacco here because it's going to create a controversy, right? Like, so I don't even know.
Oh boy, that's interesting. So I think this year, next year are two different things. They're two totally different things. I mean, we just saw a New York Giants team just release Daniel Jones, even with that contract. I mean, we didn't even get into that. That was insane. I mean, they had to. He was bad. They did what they had to do. And I give them respect. I give them credit for identifying that this isn't working, cutting their losses. That's interesting. But when you look at this Browns team this year and in this offseason, coming into this season, saying, hey, we're not going to bring in any competition for Deshaun Watson. He's our guy. We can't have Joe Flacco in that room because that's going to make Deshaun Watson uncomfortable. One, I think that was incredibly telling of the confidence of Deshaun Watson and in Deshaun Watson. I think that was incredibly telling, and I just can't believe that happened, right? Like, that's crazy. But when we look at next season, when we have those three, Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, Deshaun Watson, my belief is one of them won't be here. Now, who that is, I don't know. And let's throw Ken Dorsey in the mix as well. One of them won't be here. Something drastically has to change because for this Browns organization to see what this season turned out to be and say, we're going to do the same thing next season, that's delusional. That's insane. That is insane to expect that out of your fan base and your organization and the players to buy in. When you have a young enough team, when going into this year, you had Super Bowl aspirations. We have a young enough team with Denzel Ward, Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, guys in their prime who are top 5 in their position, and asking them to put another year of their playing career kind of on hold for a similar season. You're asking too much. So I don't think that is going to be the case. So for them to bring in quarterback competition next year is absolutely valid. In the event that they still have Deshaun Watson under center week 1, they absolutely have to bring in somebody else to compete with him. To hell with his feelings. I mean, to hell with his feelings in the first place, but to hell with his feelings, especially next year. I think we could have a whole show on quarterback options for next year, and maybe we'll do that next week. But if you look at this year's draft, you've got some guys that are intriguing. Do they necessarily make you a better team than you are right here, right now? Ugh, that's a conversation for a whole show.
It's not a
But
deep.
we can go through some of these free agents, and there's guys that may come available that could be interesting. Sam Darnold being one of them. We'll see what happens with Daniel Jones. Could that be a thing? Sure, it might be. Or do you take a shot on Shador Sanders? Do you take a shot on Cam Ward? Somebody like that? Or do you say, hey, we have extreme need at tackle, defensive end, and also wide receiver. We're going to use our top 10 pick on a premier position like that, and then hopefully we can find a guy in the second round, like a Jalen Hurts type of guy, to come in here, compete with Deshaun Watson, hopefully win the starting job, because that is cap friendly. Obviously, that's going to cost a lot less than bringing in Jimmy Garoppolo, bringing in, God, I don't even know. I mean, Sam Darnold, for example, he's kind of worked himself into a good contract. For the Browns to go that route in the draft, it does make sense financially, but as kind of us fans would say, like, to hell with the financials. We just want a winning football team, somebody that we can root for. And we're kind of getting that right now with Jameis. I don't know that Jameis is the long-term answer. I would be willing to say that he's not. But where they go from here, I think is I think it's really interesting. I see James' comment here. I like Jackson Dart. I mean, he's got a lot of good things. There are some players out there that have some really cool things. Dorian Thompson-Robinson being one of them. I would imagine that they retain DTR. He's cheap. He knows the system. He makes sense to be in a Browns uniform. But is he the answer? No. I don't think that he is.
Yeah, and I'm going to push back just a little bit there. What happens if Winston is the answer? And where I'm going with this is, the players sure in the hell love playing with him. They're enjoying the energy that he brings, his funniness, his quirkiness. They love it. I mean, they love his kind of, I'm your guy no matter what. This is the situation we have. Let's do. And what I mean by that is, what happens if they go down the stretch here and they go 500, right? And the Browns.
Yeah.
I mean, the Browns are 7-9, right? Like, they're not terrible, but they're not great. And Winston has built a real good chemistry. Again, he's on a pretty friendly deal. He's on the team. And, all I have to say is, look, there may be an answer here to where Winston's that gap guy that you surround him with a lot of talent, right? We all know that we have a lot of draft picks next year. We can manipulate the draft and free agency if we need to in some ways. But I see maybe DTR not being on the team, actually. Jameis being on the team, going and finding another quarterback, that's not even on this roster now, and maybe trading DTR. I don't know what that would look like, right? But then moving down actually in the draft and getting – I love Nick Chubb. But man, if you can go get a generational running back for the next 7 to 10 years, like Genty, and then you move back up into the first round or at the top of the second round and get a tackle or somebody on the offensive line that can, solidify your offense for the next 3 or 5 years. It's not a rebuild; it's a retool. You know what I'm saying? And now, man, you got Nick Chubb and someone like Genty in your backfield. I guarantee the whole AFC North is going to fear that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, look what Derrick Henry's doing in Baltimore right now. I mean, Genty's built very much like a Derrick Henry. He will just run down your throat. So I'm saying this team was its best when it had Kareem and Nick Chubb playing at a high level. And teams had to defend that. And man, by that third and fourth quarter, we were beating the crap out of teams and we were wearing them down. That is how we're going to win in this organization, is you've got to have that two-back set. And Jerome Ford, nothing against him, but he doesn't, he's not one of those guys that's, what I mean? He's good, but he's not great. And I think
No, I was just gonna say, like, I agree with that entirely. And when I say long term answer at quarterback, I mean for the next decade. I'm not saying for the next year. I agree with you entirely that Jameis, if he continues this season and can have a winning record under the games he started, you absolutely bring him back, right? You
Right.
absolutely do that and have him as a bridge quarterback. I think that there's I'm not entirely in love with this year's draft class in terms of the quarterback position. I think there's a lot of value in moving back or in the second round. And I see Chris's comment here. Do you think there's any quarterbacks under the radar that don't play for an elite team? Chris, I just want to ask you for clarification on that. Are you referring to NFL quarterbacks currently that are soon to be free agents or potential trade targets, or in college football as they come into the draft? So I want to get some clarification there before I answer it. But I agree with you entirely. Having that kind of 2020 Browns look, right? Where you've got a pocket passer who is a leader, but also can make plays with his legs. And you've got a decent enough offensive line with two really good running backs. Have fun stopping that, because it's going to be tough no matter what defense you're going up against.
Right. And if you think about this, I don't know if you saw this, it kind of just warmed my heart, but there was an interview that Jameis did this last week. And you know what he said? Literally, he goes, Nick Chubb, the guy that doesn't say anything, came over to me and goes, man, I love you. I love you, man. And I was like, okay, when a guy says something like that on the team to Winston, I think the entire world should listen, because he is like the pinnacle of culture, character of this football team and who the Browns represent. And when your star running back that has laid everything on the line and coming back from rehab and all those things and tells the guy, hey, I love you, there's something cooking good here. Let it run its course, and let's see what this looks like at the end of the year. And what do we got? Winston on a $10 million a year deal, something like that, 2 years, something like that. Yeah, it's $10 million a year. He's already on the roster. He's not going anywhere. He obviously likes the Browns fans. He loves being here. And I went and looked back. Did you see what his record was at New Orleans? It was like his record. I mean, you should pull this up, Allie. His record at New Orleans and his stats kind of shocked me that they let him go. Like, I was like, what he put up at New Orleans and the Saints, I was like, well, that's pretty darn good. You know what I mean? Like, it just blew me away. Like, I didn't realize he had that kind of record at New Orleans. So
yeah, look, I love Winston. I'm so glad he's a Cleveland Brown. I really am. I think he's so much fun to watch. I mean, he's a high risk, high reward guy, and we've seen it. We've seen the highs, we've seen the lows. I just don't know that he's your answer long term, right? And when I say long term, I mean for the next decade. Your franchise quarterback. He's not that, but he's a lot of fun right here, right now. And Chris, I see, Ohio University guy, not bad, not a bad player there. But I think that this year's draft class, when you're looking at the quarterbacks, I'm not overly in love with any of them. You've got Cam Ward out of Miami, and all of these, Chris, that I'm gonna list off here. They're all the Power 4 guys that do play for, I don't know that I'd say elite with some of these teams, but they play for big time programs. Shador Sanders, Quinn Ewers, who I think at the start of the season you have high on your list. At this point, probably not. Carson Beck, no thank you. Jalen Milroe, I think could stand to use another year at Alabama, if I'm being totally honest with you. But I think he will be semi-successful in the National Football League. I just don't know how quickly he will be. Drew Aller, Kyle McCord, Jackson Dart, Garrett Nussmeier, I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to be an NFL quarterback. It depends on what team he goes to. But the under the radar guys, not this year. There's not a ton that are really screaming at me in terms of the draft. But, obviously I'm not Andrew Berry, so I may not have all the answers, but I don't know. Go ahead, Dustin.
And I pulled it up. Winston was 13-8 with the Saints. So, yes. I mean,
but also we don't know what the Saints wanted to do at that time. Like, we look back on it, and obviously they fired their head coach. They've got Derek Carr at quarterback, who he's not the long-term answer for the Saints. Maybe they need to spend some more time with Spencer Rattler there in New Orleans. So, like, we didn't know if maybe they were moving off of him because they didn't want to win, or if they thought they could win more. I don't know. I can't speak for the Saints, but for the Browns for next year, I mean, if it's not somebody like high in the draft, I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised to see Jameis under center. All right, let's move along. Dustin, why don't you tell our listeners about City Barbecue?
By the way, guys, if you haven't had City Barbecue, it is amazing. In Northeast Ohio, there are 6 locations, conveniently located all in the suburbs around Cleveland. City Barbecue, great for your holiday if you want to do a great meal, a ham or one of the wonderful things. I tell you, every time I go there, their food's amazing. I can't say enough about it. But yeah, check them out. If you have some catering needs, weddings coming up, I know somebody that is in your family that's looking very excited about City Barbecue for their wedding. We were making a little deal on the side there that that's what they want for their wedding. But no, pretty cool, awesome people. But I tell you what, their hidden secret is their bread pudding. Oh my goodness, it is off the charts. Their bread pudding. But it was fun to talk to your sister Isabel. She's like, "Hey, can you hook us up on the City Barbecue? That's what we want to do for." I was like,
She does. She told me, she's like, I want that for my wedding. And I'm like, well, we can look at some other options. She's like, no, I want City Barbecue. I'm like, that's a good choice. You want to do that because some venues have everything all in house, like we did. We didn't have the option to bring in outside catering, and she's like, no, I don't care. I want City Barbecue. I'm like, that's gonna be a good time. That's gonna be a good
she's
time.
not doing a traditional wedding, right? Like it's like she's gonna have it all like in a different.
It depends. She's looking at some other venues and what she wants to do. But they'll have a nice ceremony. They're looking at some places that have it's all inclusive. You can have the ceremony and the reception there. So I don't know.
You can catering or whatever, right? Exactly.
Sure. Yep. Also, I want to tell you about our friends over at Western Reserve Distillers. You can get your official Here We Go Brownies whiskey, Cleveland whiskey there. You head on over to Western Reserve Distillers. It is a family-owned organic craft distillery in Lakewood, Ohio. They're just a few miles from downtown Cleveland. Be sure to check them out. What is it, Dustin, on Wednesdays? They got a whole situation going on there, don't they?
Yeah, 50-cent wing Wednesday. That's a tongue twister. Half off wine and then $12 flights. But I got to tell you, Allie, earlier last week, Saturday actually, I got to go to the Ritz-Carlton. And they were doing, this would have been right up you and David's alley, not alley. Look at that. They were doing a tasting and they had like, no joke, $1,400 bottles of whiskey and like high-end tastings with Wellers and some amazing whiskeys along with some of the Western Reserve stuff. And I tell you, that was pretty interesting to go in there and taste some of those. Like, I will be honest, I've always liked whiskey. Like you've become much more of a whiskey connoisseur since David and you guys have now done this. But I tell you, that 17-year-old stuff and some of that stuff that's 25, that's a whole nother level of whiskey tasting. And man, the alcohol content's up there.
You feel it.
I'm glad I Ubered. That's all I'm going to say. I'm glad I Ubered for the tasting because I was, me, I'm a lightweight like yourself. And I was like, okay, it was quite the tasting, but it was great. But look for some more wonderful stuff from those guys. They'll also be at our Christmas party doing some tastings and all that fun stuff too. So it'll be great.
All right. There you go. There you have it. All right, Dustin, before we get into our game picks, just very quickly here. Obviously, we know that the Browns are taking on the Broncos, also in prime time. Let's talk about this game real quick. Bo Nix is balling out. He really is. Denver has a good thing with him. Now, we know that we've got Jerry Jeudy, who came from Denver. What kind of game do you expect out of Jerry Jeudy against his former team?
I expect him to play at a high level. These guys take these games personally. They play different, typically in front of, obviously he didn't like his situation in Denver. I think he'll play at a high level. And Jerry Jeudy, I think technically had his best game against the Steelers. With the Browns now, didn't he have his best game against the Steelers? So I think that continues to get better in this game. I expect a good game from him. I also expect the Browns to play very well in this game. I don't know which way it'll go, but I would not be shocked if the Browns go in there and win this game on Monday Night Football. The Browns, for whatever reason, play great under the lights. For the most part, they when the lights are on and they want to win a game, I mean, you could not have had two more polar opposites in Thursday Night Football, a 2-8 team against an 8-2 team. So honestly, I expect the entire team to play well. Not only Jerry Jeudy, I think Winston will have a lot of confidence going into this game after the Thursday night game. They obviously have an extra few days of rest going into this game, so they have that benefit going for them as well. Going from a Thursday to a Monday, almost like what is that, 10, 11 days off, before the next game. I'm excited for that. So I think there's a lot of benefits to the Browns going into this game that late, from their. So
that's a good point. No, that is a good point. I also expect Jerry Jeudy to do Jerry Jeudy things, and he's going to be very motivated in this game. And what do the Browns have to lose, right? You're on prime time. They play to their opponent. I expect this to be a really fun. I would expect a high-scoring game here. Speaking of high-scoring games, we've got some games to pick. Dustin, we haven't done this in a couple of weeks.
Well, and I was going to say, anybody watching the show, I'm just going to give them a quick update. 3 minutes in the second, the 17-1 Cavaliers are 2 up on the Hawks. So the Cavaliers. By the way, I got to go to a game, by the way, a couple nights ago, Sunday night. I'm telling you, this team, Allie, there's something
crazy,
cool, is special cooking. This coach, offensively, he's got them doing some pretty amazing things. And I know you're a big basketball fan, but you've got to get yourself to a Cavaliers game.
Trust me, I had season tickets last year. It is awesome. I know this year's obviously different, but it is such a cool environment.
Let me ask you real quick. You're in Pensacola. Where would be the closest game you'd have to go watch your Cavs?
New Orleans. Either New Orleans or Atlanta.
How far is New Orleans from you?
I think it's about 3 hours, 3.5 maybe.
That's not terrible at all. That's pretty. Yeah. That's easy to get there.
Actually, while we're on the phone, let me look. Let me see. I know they're not playing anytime soon. Trust me, I've looked. New Orleans from here, it is exactly 3 hours. So
that's an easy drive. That's not a terrible drive.
Yeah. No, I looked to see if the Cavs.
Your drive to Columbus was. I don't want to say this, but it's kind of a boring drive. But it's a very easy drive from Cleveland to Columbus. It's pretty easy. It's kind of like you just kind of go, right? It was kind of, I don't know. It's a pretty easy drive. I do hate Columbus traffic.
Yes. And also, yes, George, also Orlando is another option, but that's a little bit longer of a drive for us. But
you're in the Panhandle, right? You're in the Panhandle. Yeah.
Well, actually, you know what? While I'm on it, I'm just going to look because I haven't actually looked what the drive time is to Orlando. Oops, that's not what I want. Orlando, Florida is exactly 6 hours and 12 minutes. Yeah, it's a little bit longer than Atlanta to us. So, but nonetheless, it's still an option. Yeah. All right, let's pick some games, Dustin. What do you think?
Okay, did I win last time? Did
we haven't been on in a while. But last time you picked, we tied. So we've got. So I am currently up 6-3. You are 6-3. So I know we've skipped a couple of weeks, but we're back at it. And starting tomorrow, Thanksgiving Day, we've got the Bears at the Lions. Who you got?
Well, that's tomorrow, right? Yeah,
that is tomorrow.
Thanksgiving. Well, they're always in the Thanksgiving Day games. Yeah. So I'm gonna go the Lions at home. I mean,
Lions. Give me the Lions.
This team's good.
Yeah, they are. Giants at Cowboys.
What a dumpster fire. The Cowboys seem to usually play. They kind of ball out on Thanksgiving, so I'm gonna go Cowboys.
Yeah, I think at home Giants. I don't know. I don't even know what to make of either of these teams, but I'm going to give Cowboys at home. I agree with you. Dolphins at Packers tomorrow night.
Dolphins at Packers. Packers. I like the
Packers. Give me the Packers. Packers good right now. Raiders at Chiefs on Friday.
Give me. Raiders always play them tough.
They do. They oddly do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like kind of that. It's kind of like they're one kind of team that. Give me the Chiefs, though. Give me the Chiefs in this.
Yeah. The Chiefs. Yeah, they're winning this game. Texans at Jags.
Okay, the Texans have. I don't know what's happened to C.J. Stroud as of late, but he's kind of fallen off.
A sophomore slump, if you will.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with the Texans. They rebound and come back.
Yeah, they do. Give me the Texans. Colts at Patriots.
Give me the Colts.
Yeah, give me the Colts here also. Chargers at Falcons.
Falcons.
I'm going to take the Chargers in this game. I don't know why, but I'm going to. Give me the Chargers. You're taking the Falcons. Let me write that down. That's one of our differences. Seahawks at Jets.
Here's the weird thing. The Seahawks play like crap east of the Mississippi. That's kind of, I
True.
have a Seahawks fan, and it's
Mhm.
just, they do not play. That's a long trip. Give me a weirdly Jets win this game. Like somehow, some way, I think the Jets win this game.
Honestly, Dustin, I agree with you. I think that the Jets win this game. I think if the Jets were in Seattle, there's not a
Sure.
not a chance that they win.
Both
But
yeah.
yeah, in New York, I'll take it. Give me the Titans at the Commanders.
Commanders. Daniels is another one of those that's kind of seeing a little bit of his rookiness kind of showing its ugly head.
His rookiness. Okay, I like that. I'm going to take the Commanders.
That was a word I just made up.
I like it. Steelers at Bengals.
Ooh. You know what? The Bengals have lost so many close games this year that they would probably have an amazing record. There's 4 games where they lost by 7 or less points. This is crazy what's happened to the Bengals. I mean, give me the Bengals. Give me the Bengals and give me the Steelers on a 2-week slide. Give me the Bengals.
I'm gonna take the Steelers here, but hear me out. I hate both teams, obviously, and because the Bengals have lost so many so closely, I just want to see them do it again, and I'm gonna take the Steelers in this one. Cardinals at Vikings.
Vikings. Vikings are good.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Vikings here. Rams at Saints.
Saints.
I'm gonna take. Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I'll take the Saints here. Bucks at Panthers.
Bucks.
Yeah, give me the Bucks. Although the Panthers just played the Chiefs very, very closely.
You know what? You know who plays a little bit of chip on his shoulder about other organizations? His name is Baker Mayfield. Probably doesn't like the way the Panthers did him dirty and sent him off to was it L.A.? Was it? Yeah, he went Panthers L.A. Right? Is that the?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So, and by the way, I miss Baker. All right, I said it.
Yeah. Oh, man, I know. Eagles at Ravens.
Ravens.
This one's tough. So you've got like the battle of the running back here, and I think obviously both are playing out of their minds. But I think that Saquon is. I mean, he's a contender for MVP of the league. Like, he is absolutely playing out of his ever-loving mind. And because of that, I am going to take the Eagles. And you are going to
I just remembered this. I think it was 5 or 6 weeks ago. I remember you saying this. You did not think the Eagles were a very good football team. And
Can I tell you something? I still don't. Although they've won a lot of games. I think when they play... I told David the other night, I said, if the Lions were to play the Eagles right now, I think the Lions absolutely obliterate them. Obliterate this team. I still don't think they're a great team. I think there's better teams out there, but Ravens are oddly like sleepy right now. I don't know what it is. They're in their little slump. They kind of do this thing where they're up and down, but I'm going to take the Eagles in this game. And then Sunday Night Football, we've got the Niners at the Bills.
Bills, by the way. Did you watch that Chiefs-Bills game? Great game, by the way.
That was a great game. It was a great game.
And then just to show you, when you get Amari Cooper and you change the little things, little dynamics, all of a sudden you can play with the other contenders in the league. So
that's true. That's true. And last but not least, Browns at Broncos Monday Night Football. Who you got?
You know, I'm going to actually. You know, the Browns have won 2 out of 3. If you think about it. I'm gonna go the Browns. I think the Browns got a little. They got a little. I mean, they got some confidence.
They got a little magic to them.
And the defense is kind of back to where they, where they should be playing. Give me the upset on the road for the and I freaking hate the Broncos. I mean, for many, many reasons. I mean, they have stole our heart over the years. Give me the Browns on the road for an upset on Monday Night Football.
And we steal their hearts. Monday Night Football 2024 is happening. Give me the Browns. I love it. All right, Dustin. I think that kind of wraps that up. I think the Browns get this one. Before we wrap up, also have to give a shout out to our friends over at True Fan Travel. Dustin, did you get any feedback from the True Fan Travel trip down to New Orleans?
I heard it was great. As they always say, you can't control the game, but you can control the experience. Kevin Mack said he had a good time. Christian Kirksey, went on that as well. But they had a great time. The fans that did go to the game and all the people on that charter flight had a good time. They're also doing a Black Friday sale this Friday, so check out True Fan Travel. What I did find out about True Fan Travel, they do so much more than we realize. And what I mean by that, Allie, is if you're a baseball fan and you want to go to spring training and check out the spring training games, if you want to do other different types of trips, they do it for horse race. I mean, they do all different kinds of things, guys. So I know they're an official partner of the Cleveland Browns, but go check them out at True Fan Travel. They actually do all kinds of fun, other cool sports trips, which is kind of cool. They have the gamut of different things they do. So,
yeah, there you go. There you have it. Dustin, any closing thoughts as we wrap up on a beautiful Wednesday evening?
Just one quick question, Ali. Are we going to do a little precursor Monday Night Football show around 7 for our viewers? Just thought I would ask.
That's a good question. I need to look at my calendar, and we'll talk a little bit about this offline. Maybe we'll advertise what we're going to do, but stay tuned on that note.
Yep. So I know everybody's schedule. It's always in play, guys. We never know on those games that are the late games. Because they're kind of a little more difficult to maneuver.
Yes, they are. That is true. All right, everybody. We appreciate you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, Browns fans, go Browns.